Alright, today we're going to be doing 50-hour service on this Massey Ferguson GC1710. This here is everything you're going to need. I end up going to the dealership just to get everything. Going to need, I think it's 2.7 quarts, so 3 quarts of 10 W30. And you got yourself an engine oil filter. And then hydraulic filter. And hydraulic fluid. I end up just getting a 5-gallon jug. It'll be a little bit more than I need, but that way I have some extra in case I ever need to add some to it. So first part of business, I already started this up, had it warmed up. So everything that's in the oil is moving around. So we're going to, I guess, get started. First thing we're going to do is change the engine oil. So we'll get down there and get that taken care of. So I got a magnetic oil pan heater for like wintertime starting. Because I do not want to buy the AGCO one. That's like $300 or something like that, I think, $400. So I ended up just getting this little magnetic one. Just sticks to the oil pan. That's what I got there. So we'll get that off to the side for right now. So we can find our drain plug. There's the drain plug. Got our pan. So that drain plug is a 19 millimeter. Yeah, definitely should have grabbed rags before I got down here. One thing you want to make sure to do on your drain plug, there's an O-ring right on the inside right here. You want to make sure you clean that off. Make sure that it didn't get any nicks in it when you're taking it off. And you're also going to want to make sure you clean its mating surface. Make sure there isn't any kind of debris or anything on there. Install your plug. I have an oil filter wrench that small for this, and I can't get it off of my hands. Factory had set it real tight. Maybe there's paint that's holding it on, I don't know. But I'm gonna give this a go. First time I'm gonna be using it. There she be. Alright. This is where you put your oil in. Just kind of got like a rotor plug. It's not really thread. You don't have to spin it, but it helps to break it, pull it out. So I'm going to show you guys a little trick. After you put your first quart in, take your empty oil, which maybe you guys already know this, I don't know. Some might not. I'm going to take a utility blade and you cut a square out. Get your square out, you have that little bit of leftover oil residue there. Set that down. Take a new filter. Nice oiled gasket. Alright, so first thing you want to do for the transmission, there's a little plate here, protect your filter. You don't want to take that off, otherwise it'll create a big nasty mess and nobody wants that. So That's a 12mm, and there's two of them, one back here, one right here. So we're going to get those out, take this plate off so we get to the filter good. Drain plug right back there, and that is also the same as the engine. It's 19mm. So one thing to note, I do not have a mower on this, so I don't really have a bunch of clippings or whatnot, but if you do have a mower, you're going to want to check your fins out. These are your cooling fins for your hydrostatic transmission, and if you get a bunch of like grass or mud or something plugged up and around these cooling fins, you run the chance of overheating your unit, your oil, taking out your hydrostatic transmission, which nobody wants that. So you want to make sure when you're doing this, check this over. If there's any kind of debris in here, get a blowgun, blow that out, get this cleaned up. You also want to look at your fan since you're under here. Make sure there isn't any parts that are broken. Make sure they're all still good, there's no cracks in it, because if you don't have this fan to cool this off, same thing, that'll burn up and you'll be bringing this in to get some work done on it. A whole lot of room under here for your pan and your ratchet, so you might need to break it loose with no pan underneath. There we go. Now this holds more than this pan, so I gotta watch this pan. Put the plug in there when it gets full, and then dump this and then get another one. Time for round 2. Check your O-ring, make sure it's all good, and all that good stuff. Got it all drained out, so we're going to want to tighten our drain plug back up. And I don't know the exact specs on that, but you know, not too tight, not too soft. So I do have the right filter syringe for this one, so it's good I do because it's a little tight. There we go. So we got our new oil filter. Got the got it all oiled up, looking pretty. There's a little speck of dirt right there. Want to make sure you have your filter housing is all nice and clean where your filter goes. There you go. Now it looks good. Now we'll install our filter. Got the new filter on. Got the plate back in place. Now I just got to tighten that up. You want to make sure you put this plate back on. You don't want to leave it off, because if you leave this plate off, any kind of debris, sticks, mud, whatever, come up here and can puncture your filter, knock it loose, all sorts of bad crap. So you want to make sure that you don't skip this step. Check everything else over since I'm under here, make sure there's nothing loose or broken, leaking, which I kind of been looking so far. I didn't really see anything that jumped out. So now we're going to put our transmission, hydraulic transmission fluid in. That goes right back here. There's a little tube. That's the cap for it. That just goes right in there. There's a sight glass. It's kind of hard to see with everything, but it's that little white thing. See that little white thing right there? That's the sight glass, and that's how you tell if you're low or if you're good on hydraulic oil. It doesn't have a dipstick. So probably should have done this before I started doing this, but hopefully learn from my mistake. Probably want to lift it up with the bucket so the front axle is off the ground, so you can get a catch pan underneath to catch your front end fluid, which is just hydraulic oil, same stuff you put in the back. Yeah, so I started it up so that way now I can check my oil level and my hydraulic level, make sure everything is the level it should be after I change this out, because right now it's popping a wheelie kinda. Everything's going to be off, nothing will be right, because you're supposed to check all the fluids on level ground. So we'll change this out. Alright, so got it lifted up. You don't want to go underneath the tires or anything unless you put a jack stand underneath, because there's always a chance it could drop. So everywhere I'm going to be is, if it fell, I would not get crushed. So there's drain plugs on either side of the axle. Got one right here, the other one right there. So we're just going to put drain pans, each of those. And that is a 15 millimeter, correction, 14 millimeter. So take your 14 millimeter ratchet, wrench, what have you. You want to break these free. I broke these free. There we go. There's one plug. Got the other side going. And this is the fill cap right here on the left side of the front axle. We're going to open that up, give it some air, really let those puppies drain. And I believe there is a little over a gallon in this front axle. I think it's like 4.2 quarts, something like that. And it's the same hydraulic oil used for the rear end. That's why I got the 5-gallon jug, so I could have enough for the transmission and the front axle. And while we're under here, there's U-joints that can be checked. There's one under in here, and that's in the shield, so we should probably check that over as well. Alright, so once your fluid in the front axle is done draining, you want to put your drain plugs back in. The drain plugs do not have any O-rings or anything, so they say in the manual to put Teflon tape around the threads before you install them back in. So wrap these up, otherwise they'll leak. Before you start filling up your front axle, you're going to want to make sure you lower it back down onto the ground, making sure that you have all of your stuff out of the way so it doesn't get squashed. And that right there, that's the check. This little bolt up here, or plug looking thing. So what you're going to want to do is clean out around it. I already did that. This was covered in mud, so get some trapped air or whatever and clean that out. Then you just remove that. There's one on the other side, remove that. Then you just take this off right here, fill it up from here until you see some oil coming out there, and then put your plugs back in, and that's it. For the front axle at least. So oil came up to here, so I put the plug in, and that's pretty much just to let the air out as the oil takes the air's place. So got that plug in. I got the other side has not had any oil coming out yet. As you can see, it's dry around there still. So we're gonna keep pumping until we get oil coming out on this side. And then once we get oil, which I'm sure it'll be like 1 or 2 pumps, put that plug in over here, and